Man, Gallipoli is brutal. One bullet, you're on the floor. But after dozens of hours dying and testing, I've separated the 10 tips that help me immensely, and that can make you master this game. I'm Matthew, and with no fluff, let's get straight to the video. This tip is, without exaggeration, one of the biggest gameplay changes Gallipoli brings compared to previous titles in the series, and mastering this separates average players from true experts. The surface resting system completely breaks the old logic of, I need a mounted bipod to stabilize. Now, literally any weapon can be rested against any cover, trench corner, parapet, or simply by going prone, and the game automatically recognizes this, stabilizing your aim instantly, with no mounting animation, no delay, no bureaucracy. It's fluid, it's intuitive, and it completely changes how you think about positioning. What does this mean in practice? That you no longer need to carry a specific weapon with a fixed bipod to make long-range shots with precision. Any rifle, any position where you manage to lean the weapon becomes a stable shooting point. This is absurdly valuable in trenches, where every centimeter of cover matters, and in elevations, where you need stability to aim at distant targets without exposing yourself too much. The corner of a wall, a rock, an ammo crate, the top of a ditch, everything becomes an improvised support. And best of all, there is no time penalty. You aim, rest, shoot. Simple as that. Of course, fixed bipods still exist and remain superior in terms of stabilization bonuses, but they are no longer mandatory, becoming optional for specific situations. Generic surface resting is what you'll use 90% of the time, especially on maps like Anzac Cove or in the hills of Sari Bear, where the terrain is uneven and support opportunities are everywhere. This also encourages a more tactical playstyle. Instead of standing around shooting randomly, you learn to actively look for surfaces to stabilize against, which naturally makes you more precise, more lethal, and less predictable. Mastering universal surface resting is about a mindset shift. You stop thinking, I need special equipment to be precise, and start thinking, how can I use the environment to my advantage right now? It's a mechanic that rewards observation, positioning, and patience, and when well executed, it transforms any player into an elite marksman, even without the best classes or loadouts. If you aren't using this at every opportunity, you're basically playing Gallipoli with one hand tied behind your back. This mechanic is one of the most brilliant and punishing details the franchise has ever implemented in weapon handling. Separating physical instability between muscle exhaustion and natural grip tremor turns precision into a tactical resource that you must actively manage before any engagement. In practice with machine guns or heavy rifles, aiming to hold a sightline has become a trap for anyone playing on autopilot. When fatigue begins to take its toll, the crosshair oscillates aggressively, forcing us to build the habit of resting the weapon or looking for surfaces for support rather than spending seconds glued to the scope. With secondary weapons and pistols, continuous instability demands surgical discipline to avoid burning through your breath before the exact right moment. The big difference I've noticed in gameplay is never holding your breath to search for the target, but rather synchronizing that key with the exact fraction of a second when you confirm alignment and pull the trigger. Mastering this dynamic completely changes your consistency during chaotic trench firefights. Anyone who understands the difference between these two systems stops blaming random bullet spread and starts respecting the weight and mechanical rhythm of each class in the game. The crouch sprint isn't just a movement detail. It's a tactical tool that completely changes how you transition between sectors of the map. Instead of running upright, turning into an easy target for any enemy with a rifle aimed at the trench line, you can now sprint while crouched, keeping your silhouette below the most common line of fire. This means you cross danger zones without unnecessary exposure, and in a game where one bullet sends you to the spawn screen, that is pure gold. And it doesn't stop there. Prone movement also received a significant buff compared to Verdun, Tannenberg, and Isanzo. Previously, going prone and crawling was almost a slow death sentence. You were stationary, vulnerable, and it took seconds to reposition. Now, you can move while prone at a speed that makes tactical sense, allowing repositioning under crossfire without turning into a punching bag. This is especially brutal on maps like Anzac Cove or Baby 700, where the terrain is open and any movement in a straight line is suicide. Crawling between covers, changing angles, flanking unseen, all of this becomes viable in a way it wasn't before. What does this allow you to do in practice? Play much more aggressively without being punished. You can crouch sprint between trenches, cross destroyed streets, advance toward objectives without needing to stand up like a duck. And when things heat up, you drop prone and reposition quickly, maintaining pressure without exposing yourself. It's a mechanic that rewards those who understand the flow of battle. Instead of staying still trading shots, you are always moving, always repositioning, always creating better angles. And the enemy? They're left shooting at empty air, frustrated, because you simply aren't where they think you are. Mastering the crouch sprint and improved prone movement is about risk control. You aren't just moving faster, you're moving smarter. And in Gallipoli, where the momentum of battle is decided by whoever can maintain constant pressure without sacrificing themselves pointlessly, that is the difference between being the guy who carries the squad and the guy complaining at the spawn screen. If you're still running upright out there, stop now. Crouch, go low, move low, and watch how the game completely changes. If there's one thing that separates teams that dominate Expedition from those stuck at spawn, it's this: advancing spawn beacons. In Gallipoli, attacking isn't about having the best loadout or the strongest class. It's about shortening the run between the respawn and the front line. And the only real way to do that is by planting spawn beacons as far forward as possible, ideally inside or right behind the trench you just captured. The crucial detail? Any player on the attacking team can build these beacons, anywhere. It's not exclusive to the officer. This means every squad member is a potential reinforcement point. And if you aren't using this, you're basically condemning your team to run hundreds of meters under fire every time you die. Now think about the flow of a typical match. Your team captures a sector, everyone celebrates, and then nothing happens. The advance stops. Why? Because nobody planted a new beacon. The result? Everyone who dies has to run all the way back from the original spawn, taking minutes to reach the front. Enough time for the enemy to regroup, reposition, and prepare their defense. But when you advance the beacon aggressively, the game completely changes. Your teammates spawn directly on you, right on the front line, ready to fight in seconds. This maintains constant pressure, saturates the next objective with numbers, and simply crushes the enemy defense with pure momentum. And here is the truth a lot of people don't want to hear. Advancing the beacon is worth more than getting kills. It sounds crazy, but it makes total sense. A well-placed beacon allows your entire squad to spawn right in combat position, creating multiple attack angles and keeping the enemy under pressure at all times. Meanwhile, the team that doesn't advance their beacons gets stuck in an infinite cycle of run-die, respawn, run-die, losing momentum with every death. And once the momentum flips, the match is practically decided. In Gallipoli, constant pressure beats individual skill. You aren't there to farm kills. You're there to make sure your squad never stops advancing. And the most efficient way to do that? Be the guy who's always at the front, planting beacons, creating aggressive spawn points, and allowing your team to spawn already in combat position. If you want to be the player who carries matches in Expedition, start here. Advance the spawn, maintain momentum, and see how absurdly simpler the game becomes. This tactical change was one of the most intelligent adaptations Blackmill made to differentiate Gallipoli from Isanzo and force the player to truly read the battlefield. The absence of continuous chemical smoke screens in the hands of officers removes that artificial safety zone and forces us to use the hostile environment as an ally, turning every artillery explosion into an opportunity for advancement. On open beaches and desert stretches, standing still waiting for the perfect smoke means certain death. So the strategy shifts to synchronizing squad movement with the impact of the projectiles. The dense cloud of dirt and sand, kicked up by the explosion, acts as a temporary veil that hides your silhouette and breaks enemy line of sight. But it requires precise timing because it dissipates quickly. What I like most about this mechanic is how it rewards voice coordination and rhythm reading. You need to communicate the exact moment of impact and order the charge before the dust settles. This creates a wave advance dynamic that makes every assault feel like a real amphibious landing, where hesitating for a second can cost the entire squad. Mastering this use of artillery dust as dynamic cover transforms you from an easy target into an assault leader who knows how to turn artillery chaos into a tactical advantage. It's one of those tips that separates those who just shoot from those who truly understand the flow of battle and use every element of the map to survive the game's most lethal open fields. The reload system isn't a magic button that fills your ammo bar. It simulates the actual process of handling a World War I rifle or machine gun, with physical steps that make logical sense. Opening the bolt, inserting the clip, closing the bolt, cocking the hammer. And the smartest part is that the game respects this progress even when you need to react quickly to an unexpected situation. In practice, this completely changes how you think during moments of pressure. If you're reloading and an enemy suddenly appears out of nowhere, you don't need to panic thinking you've lost all the time invested in the reload. You can throw a melee attack, crouch for cover behind a trench, or even change stance to aim better. And when you resume reloading, the game picks up the exact mechanical step where you left off. This creates a sense of fluidity that rewards players who keep their cool and make tactical decisions rather than just reacting out of fright. What I love most about this mechanic is how it encourages a more conscious playstyle and less spray and pray. Knowing your reload progress is preserved gives you the freedom to alternate actions without fear of wasting precious seconds. You can start reloading, hear approaching footsteps, interrupt for a defensive melee, and then resume reloading without losing the work already done. It's a system that trusts player intelligence and transforms a vulnerable pause into an integrated part of the combat flow. In your first matches, you'll make mistakes, you'll interrupt too much, you'll forget your mid-reload, you'll die trying to be too clever. But as you internalize the rhythm of the steps, you begin to feel when you can afford to pause and when you need to finish the process before exposing yourself. It's this kind of detail that makes Gallipoli stand out as a tactical FPS that respects both historical realism and competitive gameplay. The game basically forces you to think like a real squad, where every role has a clear purpose and depends on the others to function. It doesn't matter if you're the best heavy machine gun player on the server if you don't have someone willing to carry your ammo crates. And this creates a layer of strategy that goes far beyond just aiming and shooting. What catches my attention the most is how this mechanic transforms the HMG from a pick-up-and-use weapon into something that demands planning and coordination. Heavy machine guns are devastating when well-positioned, but setup times and absurd ammo consumption mean you're always counting down the seconds until you're vulnerable. That's where the ammo bearer enters not as an optional support, but as an essential part of the strategy. Without them, your HMG basically turns into a stationary target, waiting for someone to flank you after your ammo runs out. In practice, this completely changes how you communicate with your team on Discord or voice chat. Instead of everyone picking the class that looks the most fun at the moment, you start thinking, okay, who's going HMG? Cool, then I'll go ammo bearer to cover you. It's a dependency relationship that rewards organized teams and punishes anyone playing every man for himself. And the coolest part is that even as different classes, both players feel equally important. One isn't less than the other, because one doesn't work without the other. At the end of the day, this class synergy is the kind of design that makes Gallipoli stand out as a true tactical FPS. It's not just about having realistic weapons or historical maps, it's about creating systems that force players to cooperate meaningfully. In your first matches, you'll see people complaining they wasted time playing ammo bearer, but as the team understands the mechanic, everyone realizes this is the difference between holding a sector for minutes or getting swept off the map in seconds. It's a reminder that sometimes the best play isn't the most glorious one, but the one that keeps the squad functioning. The game completely abandoned the hit scan model, where shots land instantly, with zero travel time, and implemented a realistic projectile drop system, where each weapon has a specific muzzle velocity, and bullets are influenced by gravity based on distance and ammo type. This means that on open maps like Anzac Cove, Sorry Bear, or Baby 700, you can no longer simply aim at the center of an enemy's chest and expect the bullet to fly straight. You have to compensate. You have to think. You have to understand trajectory. What does this mean in practice? That at long distances, especially with bolt-action rifles, you need to aim slightly above the target's head to compensate for bullet drop. It sounds minor, but it makes a brutal difference. A bullet leaving your rifle doesn't travel in a straight line. It drops as it loses velocity. And at 100, 150, 200 meters, that drop is significant. If you don't compensate, you'll see your shots scraping past the enemy's feet or hitting the ground before reaching them. And in a game where a well-placed bullet sends you to the spawn screen, missing due to uncompensated drop is basically suicide. This transforms long-distance shooting from point-and-click into a skill that must be learned and practiced. And here's the detail many people miss. Different ammunitions have different drops. A rifle with heavier ammo will have a flatter trajectory at medium ranges, while a rifle with lighter ammo will suffer more drop at long ranges. This means you can't use the exact same sight picture for every weapon. You have to learn each one's trajectory, test, fail, and adjust. And this is especially vital on maps like Anzac Cove, where sightlines are long and engagements happen at 100+ meters. Whoever masters this becomes an elite sniper even without a scope. Whoever ignores it is just shooting at the air. Adapting to projectile drop is about a mindset shift. You stop thinking of a gunshot as instantaneous and start thinking like an archer. You have to calculate distance, compensate for trajectory, and anticipate where the enemy will be when the bullet arrives. This makes the game much more tactical, much more rewarding for those dedicated to learning, and much more punishing for those trying to play on autopilot. If you're still aiming straight and expecting hit scan, stop now. Start compensating, test at different distances, and watch your long-range hits skyrocket. Instead of dying instantly upon taking a hit, you can now enter a down state and have a real chance of getting back into the fight. And that completely shifts the mindset of anyone playing. It's no longer about, I died, time to respawn. It's about, I'm down, now I need to make decisions that affect my entire squad. This extra layer of consequence makes every engagement feel heavier and more meaningful. What impresses me most is how the game encourages you to stay calm even when you're crawling on the ground with your life slipping away. The temptation to force a respawn is huge, especially when you're under fire or think nobody is going to save you. But waiting for a stretcher bearer isn't just a matter of pride or patience. It's a tactical decision that preserves your team's reinforcement tickets. In 2 5v25 matches, where every reinforcement counts, saving those tickets can be the difference between holding a critical sector or losing the entire map in the final minutes. Another detail I learned through practice is that crawling accelerates your bleeding out, so staying completely still is often the best play. This goes against every instinct of anyone used to moving for self-preservation, but it makes total sense within the game's context. If you're in a relatively safe spot, waiting for the medic to arrive is more efficient than trying to drag yourself to cover and dying along the way. It's a system that rewards trust in your squad mates and punishes desperate individualism. When you call for a stretcher bearer and wait, you're telling your teammates, you guys are important enough for me to trust that you'll save me. And when you play as the medic, rescuing a downed teammate is just as valuable as eliminating an enemy. This interdependence creates moments of tension and relief that make Gallipoli feel less like a generic shooter and more like a true cooperative war experience. Choosing the right squad type in Gallipoli isn't a minor detail. It's the single most important decision you make before the first shot is fired. The squad type you select, infantry, assault, machine gun, support, or scouting, defines which classes are available, how many slots each role occupies, and even what kind of air support your team can call. Ignoring this is like entering a competitive match without checking your loadout. You might play, but you're competing at a disadvantage right from the spawn. The beauty of the system lies in how each squad type has a clear tactical role that fits specific phases of a match. Do you want to break an entrenched defense and push the front? Assault gives you more room for offensive classes and access to heavy air support to clear the path. Need to hold a sector against waves of enemies? Machine gun frees up slots for that classic heavy machine gunner plus ammo bearer combination that turns any position into a nightmare for attackers. There is no best squad. There's the right squad for the right phase of battle. What many people take too long to understand is that switching squad types mid-match isn't just allowed, it's expected. Started as infantry for flexibility, but the team got stuck on a push? Switch to assault. The enemy is pressing hard and you need to lock down? Go machine gun or support. This adaptability is what separates reactive teams from proactive ones. The best squads I've ever faced were constantly adjusting their composition as the map's flow changed, and that made all the difference in decisive moments. Every choice you make in the spawn menu echoes through the next minutes of the match, affecting not just your individual performance, but the entire team's tactical potential. In the most fiercely contested matches, victory rarely goes to whoever has the best aim. It goes to whoever understood that Gallipoli is won through planning, not just reflexes. And mastering this system is the first step to stopping being a passenger and becoming the pilot of your squad.